You ever see a woman shackled, march through the gates of a place that was never meant to hold her, and everyone just watches, not a whisper, not a second glance, like it was business as usual? Yeah, that happened. And her name was Eliza Brooks. She wasn't some petty thief or small-time crook. She was a decorated Delta Force commander, one of the best. But none of that mattered the moment those cold iron bars swallowed her whole. They didn't see a soldier. They saw a target. Now let me back up a sec. 3 weeks before Eliza ever laid eyes on Riverside Penitentiary, she was buying milk. Grocery store, aisle 3. She reached into the cooler, and boom, face down on the floor. Wrist jammed behind her back. Some badge screaming, "You're under arrest for armed robbery and conspiracy." Eliza's lip hit the tile so hard she tasted blood before she even knew what was happening. The shoppers around her didn't help. Nah, they filmed it. Phones out. Like it was just another episode of Cops. Not a war hero being dragged through the mud. She said there was a mistake because, well, there was. But the detective didn't flinch. "Tell it to your lawyer." That's all she got. So she did. And her lawyer, Martin Redgrave, he was solid. 30 years in criminal defense. The guy could smell perjury a mile away. He poked holes in the case like it was Swiss cheese, no matching fingerprints. A blurry ID from a half-asleep gas station clerk. And the one piece of security footage that could have cleared her, poof. Gone. Server error, they claimed. Martin looked her dead in the eye and said, "This case is garbage, Eliza, but something stinks." He was right. The district attorney, Lyle Hendricks, was up for re-election. He needed a headline. "Female Delta Force commander turns to crime." That's the kind of thing that gets votes, not justice. And so the machine kicked in, suppressed evidence, intimidated witnesses. A judge who might as well have worn a campaign button on the bench. Verdict came in, guilty. And the sentence, 20 years. But here's the kicker. Eliza was supposed to be sent to Millstone Women's Facility. Minimum security. The kind of place where your biggest threat is a cold shower and bad meatloaf. But on transport day, they rerouted her. Instead, she ended up in the Riverside, a maximum security male prison. And no, not by accident. You could feel it in the way the guards refused to meet her eye. The way they told her to sit back and shut up when she pointed out they'd missed the turnoff by 20 miles. She knew the route, she'd memorized it. Because when you've done time overseas in combat zones, logistics matter, every turn, every shadow. So when the van rolled past a rusted sign reading Riverside Correctional Facility, her heart dropped not out of fear, but calculation. Someone wanted her dead. They just didn't know what kind of woman they'd locked in with their wolves. Riverside wasn't a prison. It was a gladiator pit with plumbing. The yard looked like a war zone waiting to ignite. Gangs ran the blocks. Guards looked the other way. And if you didn't belong, you disappeared. Eliza didn't walk in timid. She walked in with eyes wide open, counting exit routes, marking guard rotations, noting blind spots. That's the thing they expected her to be prey. But she was always a predator, she just didn't show her teeth until she had to. First day, they threw her in general population. No protective custody, no isolation. "Computer says Gen Pop," the sergeant said, not even blinking. "Computer's wrong," she replied. "Computer's the boss," he smirked. Right then, she knew this wasn't incompetence. It was an op, a silent kill mission, buried under layers of bureaucratic grease. The other inmates saw her and grinned like they'd just spotted a lamb in a lion cage. They had no idea. But the real threat wasn't just in the yard. Back in the city, in a high-rise office with floor-to-ceiling glass, sat the man pulling strings. Vincent Hale, a defense contractor with more ties to the Pentagon than a 5-star general. Eliza had once exposed shady intel flows that cost him billions. She thought it was over. He didn't. Now, he was buying silence with her life as the price tag. And he had help. Records were altered to mark Eliza as male. Emails disappeared. Guards got promotions for looking away. Meanwhile, Eliza's old CO, Colonel Marlon Reese, got wind of the screw-up and started digging. When he found her military file had been tampered with, he knew someone wanted her gone for good. But Reese wasn't about to let one of his soldiers rot. Problem was, he had to move through a minefield of red tape. Every agency he contacted either stalled or redirected. She's in intake. They said, no communication allowed. No one could reach her. And inside Riverside, things went from bad to deadly. By day 4, Eliza was cornered during rec time. 3 members of a prison gang known as the Brotherhood thought they'd make a name for themselves. Picked a blind spot in the yard. No cameras. No guards. Eliza Brooks, one hissed, end of the line. She didn't flinch. The first came at her fast. She stepped aside, caught his momentum, drove her knee into his gut. Second one tried to grab her. He ended up with a dislocated shoulder. The third just ran. The guards wrote it up as a scuffle. But behind the scenes, Hale doubled the bounty. Next time, they didn't send 3, they sent 20. That's right, 20 men. Day 10. Yard time. Word was out. Operation Cleanup. Eliza knew it was coming. She could feel the tension in the air like a live wire. Even the lifers guys who'd seen every horror this place had to offer kept their heads down. She built makeshift weapons from what she had. Sharpened plastic, a toothbrush with a metal rod, chemicals that could blind. It was all she could do. And she waited. At 9:03 a.m., they made their move, like wolves circling. At first, it was manageable. 2 down, 3 injured. But then they came in waves. One had a real knife, not a prison shank, an actual blade. And where'd you get that? She spat, breath ragged. Friends in high places, he sneered. That's when she knew this wasn't gang business. This was assassination. She was bleeding, her back to the wall, no backup, no time, nowhere to run. And then gunshots, not from inmates, from the front gate. Federal marshals. Colonel Reese had pulled every string, burned every bridge, and it worked. The marshals stormed the yard. Drop your weapons or we will use deadly force, they shouted. Most of the attackers ran. Some hesitated. The leader, a tattooed brute named Hayes, lunged one last time. Eliza sidestepped, snatched the knife from his wrist mid-swing, elbowed him in the gut. He dropped like a sack of bricks. Seconds later, Hayes was in cuffs. The rest either surrendered or scattered. And Eliza. She collapsed right there on the concrete, 10 days of hell pouring out in one breath. After that, everything moved fast. She was transferred, treated, questioned, documented. Every bruise was photographed, every cut recorded. The federal case against Vincent Hale and his cronies started piling up fast. Turns out, the warden at Riverside, he cracked. The pressure, the cameras, the fear of what he'd helped cover it broke him. Officer Shannon Patel. The only one who'd questioned the transfer early on was promoted. Her integrity helped spark full-blown reform inside Riverside. Gender classification procedures were overhauled. No more computer says so nonsense. And Hale, well, he went quiet. For now. But don't think this story ends with medals and handshakes. No. Eliza came home to a world that had moved on without her. Her sister still didn't know the full story, her nephew. Just happy Auntie was back. Will you tell me another Army story, he asked, face covered in birthday cake. Eliza smiled. Maybe tomorrow, kiddo. That night, she sat alone on the porch, staring at the stars she thought she'd never see again. And she whispered something only the dark could hear. They almost won. Almost. But not today. Not her. Because she never learned how to surrender. Now tell me this, if the system can bury a woman like Eliza Brooks that deep, who else is down there? And how many never made it out? Let me know what you think down in the comments. What's justice when the law's used as a weapon? Is it revenge to fight back? Or survival? Let's talk about it.